So over to the next feature which we have built. We have been hearing a lot of feedback around the layout, how it's being used. So since we are an omni-channel customer support or customer success tool, um, people have shared that it might not be very ideal for emails, or it might not be very ideal for other channels. So the way we have been dealing with the layout was that we have been taking it as a conversational UI, and everything was built around that, and email also naturally came as a conversational UI itself. So there are a couple of problems which we were facing. One of the things is emails were not rendered properly, so we actually stripped all the styles to make it look like a message rather than the actual image itself, like email content itself. So we this was creating a lot of problems because it was not it would not actually look like how it was sent from the sender. So people were really frustrated about that. So we were just looking at what alternatives we can suggest. So then the second one was that there was not enough space to read the content as well as act on it, because we just have a very small window of option where we could just type in a message, and then you would see maybe three or four messages at max, and there was not enough space for you to and take any actions on. And then one of the feedbacks which we have got when we talk to people was that there is no real need for you to switch between conversations immediately. Yeah, you can, if you are a support agent, you just want to quickly scan through the conversations. Yes, that makes sense. But 90% of the time, people were looking at one particular conversation, they were trying to resolve that and move on to the next one once that is finished. Or maybe they put a pause on the conversation which they are working on and then move on to the next one. So there was no real need for having that switching capability. So we thought of different ways of approaching this problem. Like how do we make sure that people can do their work without our UI hindering their work. So the first one was obviously we tried to ask them to hide the contact sidebar, which was not very possible, because there were a couple of actions which you can take, and there was some information which was available over there. So the next thing which we tried to come up with was whether can we hide the left hand sidebar. Is it can we just hide it whenever it is required? But that also created some problems, because people might want to switch to a different inbox, see what's happening over there, which is also then it also made a little bit of problem over there. And then we arrived at a final solution where we introduced a new layout, which I'll show you in a minute, and where people can just focus on one particular conversation, have enough space to view the conversation and the content. And yeah, this was released in the last version, and you can have both views together. You can either have the previous layout which we had, or maybe you can have the new layout which we have introduced. So let me quickly share my screen and show you what we have done over there. I hope it started sharing. Okay. Sorry about that. I think now it should be good. Yeah. So what we as I mentioned, right? So when we open a conversation, we just have this small space where you can type in or see the conversation, which is very small. And even with the introduction of new dashboard apps, it still had a lot of issues with the spacing and how you can utilize the space right there. So what we try to do is we added a new layout where you can switch to an extended layout, which would just show you the list. And then once you open that particular conversation, you can see the queries have an expanded view, and you can just focus on one query. And once you're done, you can go back to the previous list view and then start another conversation. So I hope this helps you to work better. So yeah, I mean that's mostly about the email layout improvements.